Right, hello everyone. I think we've kind of hit the point where everyone on the live stream is waiting for us now. Adam, are they all able to see me and hear me and everything? All good? No worries. Well, thank you very much to everyone for coming. I know we've been talking about doing an in-person event for the SocialCode for going on a year now. It's nice to actually have a lot of people back in the room. Before I start, I'll just quickly do a couple of housekeeping bits that I need to do just to keep the owners of the building happy and everything like that. We've got no fire drill planned, so if you do hear the fire alarm go off, stairs straight opposite you at this door, all the way down to the fire exit. Nothing else that you should need to worry about there. There's a toilet straight out there in front of you. If that toilet's being used, one floor down there is another full set of toilets and everything that you can go to. As far as that, the only other thing is, if you are a smoker, please don't smoke on the terrace outside. Please go downstairs and out the front, and just let someone know that you're going, and we'll make sure you can get back in and upstairs. Well, thank you very much to everyone for coming this evening, and thank you to our three speakers for taking time out of their evenings as well to join us. Obviously, just to quickly introduce the SocialCode for those of you who... Oh, yes, I'll turn my music off, that would help. It's not my music, I don't think. I don't have Spotify, and I don't know whose music this is. It's not my music. I don't know who's playing it. Someone's playing music, but yeah. No, just to quickly introduce the SocialCode, for those of you who kind of haven't been here before, we're a software development network. There's over 1,500 members now around the world, effectively. And basically, we've got kind of three core ethos models that we're looking for. Basically, share knowledge as a group to introduce people to things they may not have acknowledged before, to kind of encourage feedback amongst our professionals, to explore new ideas, to see different things that are going on, and to act as a community. We're really keen that everyone can get involved, no matter kind of what your experience level, what your enthusiasm is. If you're interested in this, you're more than welcome. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Ross Townsend. I'm a senior consultant here at Oscar. I've been here for 9 months, but I've been working in the Manchester market for 3.5 years now. Just as a quick heads up, Heather to my right is going to be giving me a hand with the interactive stuff tonight, because obviously we've got a lot of people joining us on the live stream as well. So thank you to everyone who's joining us for that. If you do want to catch me at the socials for any updates on the SocialCode or anything like that, then feel free. And just quickly to introduce our speakers, because we're going to hand over to Adrian first. We've got Adrian Bradfield from Fluent Money. Adrian's been attending this since day one, been to, I think, every single one without
give or
take, one or two. Adrian's a software developer, like I said, at Fluent Money. He's going to be covering how not to introduce new technologies to your team. Then we've got Stephen Atkinson and David Traynor, who both kindly joined us. So Stephen's at Dootrix and David's at Airtime Rewards, and we'll introduce them both in a little bit. Adrian, I will hand over to you now for our first talk of the evening.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ross.
You got the presentation there?
It's on there.
Cool.
Just watch your head on the...
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, so as I said, I'm Adrian from Fluent Money. Yeah, software developer there. Just quick, what Fluent Money is. So Fluent Money, the UK's fastest growing digital mortgage distribution platform. We are hiring, so if you're looking for anyone who does like C#, .NET, Azure, all that fun stuff. I think you're recruiting.
I am recruiting for them, so if you are looking, but I promise, I didn't tell him to do this. Don't think this is a recruitment message. You're in the doghouse.
Okay, so how not to introduce new technologies. So very few people can walk into their work and just decide what they're going to be using for their technology for that day. I was quite lucky quite early on in my career that I did actually have a job where I had quite a lot of freedom. I was at a company where I was the only software developer in the company, and so the company just sold accounting software, and it was my job to take that accounting software and create custom apps and integrations, do whatever it was that clients would do. But even though I was the only software developer in the company, it still didn't mean I could do whatever it was I wanted to do. You know, I still had clients to keep happy. still had contracts to fulfill, all that fun stuff. Really, it's only hobbyists who get to do that kind of thing with the technology that they want to do all the time. Everyone else, we've got co-workers and managers that we need to impress. We've been hired to add business value, and whatever we write, we have to maintain at the end of the day, whether we like it or not. So you can't just go around going ham on absolutely everything. So just to go over what I'm going to cover. So picking your battles. So making sure that the technology that you're wanting to use is appropriate. Convincing everyone else that you're right, that you should be using this technology. And also, now you've convinced everyone what it is that you want to do, how do we actually go about implementing that and to make it successful at the end of the day? So picking your battles then. So not every tech is suitable for every situation. At the end of the day, you've been hired to add business value, not just because you want to sit there and try out new technologies all the time. So business value can be quite a few different things, as well as delivering features to the clients, which is your main job at the end of the day. But business value, will it save the company money, improve speed of development, make someone's job easier, to improve security, stability. Could even be something as left field as could it make recruiting developers easier in the future. The last thing to mention on that is the technology you're looking at actually the right solution in the first place? So really, you should always be looking at it through the lens of, I have this problem and I'm going to use this technology to solve it, rather than I want to use this technology, what problems can I find to throw this at? So yeah, convincing everyone else. So you've convinced yourself now, you've got the business value that you're trying to add. You've decided that you've got the right technologies. Now you're going to try and get everyone else on side. Who and how you go about doing this will differ from company to company. I'm just going to talk about briefly how we do it at Fluent. Most of it is transferable. The details might differ. We do like retros every 2 weeks or something like that. I would normally, or any of the team would, if we wanted to do something like this, just raise it in retro, just wait for 2 weeks, raise it in retro, just whack a ticket on there saying something like, to help him give this business value, consider using this. You know how retros work, you just go around, everyone puts their little stories on the board and just go and generally give a high level overview of them afterwards. Keep it really high level at this point, because at this point you just want to decide as a team whether this is something you're even going to consider. Is this business value actually really going to add anything for you as a team? Do you want to even bother looking at it? But if you decide you do, say organise a separate meeting for it. The reason to keep it completely separate from the retro when you originally raise it, it gives everybody a chance to go away, do their own research and have a look into the problem. And come back together in a couple of days where everyone's just thought through what questions and concerns that they'd have about all of this. You can actually have a nice informed discussion about it, rather than one person says, I want to use this fancy new thing that no one knows a clue anything about. You want to do it, yes or no? Well, no one's had a look at it yet. No one can say at this point whether it's worth looking into. So in this meeting, the person who raised it basically just give a little sales pitch, covering what the problem is, high-level overview of the tech that you're wanting to use, and how it's actually going to solve your problem. Maybe even add a little tech demo at the end if they'll have enough time to prepare for that, so you've got a nice little chance to see how it might actually work with your code base. Then after that, the floor's open then for the rest of the team to sort of ask questions, generally discuss between themselves, and maybe even propose alternatives to what you're saying. And this goes right back then to what I mentioned in the first part, where you've got to be picking the right technology. So even though beforehand, you've looked at a few options, other people might have other suggestions, and you need to look at them with the same amount of scrutiny as you looked at all of your choices up front from the start. You know, then maybe you can't answer all the questions, and you have to come back and do another meeting. But at the end of the day, you just want to get a go, no-go decision. At the end of that, you should come to a conclusion as a team which one you should go for. So yeah, so okay, everyone's agreed. So what now? So sometimes you've picked a technology for a very specific project. So obviously you're going to just use it for that one. So that doesn't really apply here. But let's just say you're wanting to bring in technology a bit more generally to the company. So something like Kubernetes, or maybe you want to add monitoring with Datadog, something that you're going to use across multiple projects rather than just focused at one. So how do you choose like the right project to actually start looking at implementing this stuff on? So there's two areas that I think to really focus on. So look for projects with a low barrier to entry and ones that will add value. When I say low barrier to entry, I mean something that's really simple, like you can do a really simple implementation of this technology. Something so simple, you're barely getting off of the getting started guide. You know, really, really simple. So, you know, for example, when we started looking at Kubernetes in Fluent, the very first project that we used to use it on was actually a console app, which just had to run on a schedule like every 15 minutes or something like that. As basic as it can get. You don't need to listen for any web requests coming in. It just sits there happily in its nice own little world. Just sits there, runs every 15 minutes. Really, really simple. Second one, will it add value? So even if it's got a low barrier to entry, there's no point doing it if it's still not adding value to it. Like there's still got to be value there, and it is a bit of a balancing act between the two. So you could have a project you know you've got down the line where it's going to add a lot of value, but the barrier to entry is not so high. You sort of have to find a nice little middle point between them. But yeah, so these things to look for. We also at Fluent, so it's been my personal mission there for a while to improve the automated testing there. So I've gone through this process quite a lot of times, adding more and more to our unit tests and build pipelines, and just really, really trying to push automated testing across everything. We've been at quite a comfortable place for a while now. So I've started looking at trying to get integration tests going now as well on top of our nice unit test framework that we've got. So to do that, I wanted to start using SpecFlow for the integration tests. So, you know, I've gone through everything that I've said here. I looked at what we wanted to do, best technology for it, got everyone else convinced. And so we sat down and started looking for a project. And sometimes a project just falls into your lap. We had a project coming up which was to integrate with one of our third parties, basically just get back a list of mortgages that someone is eligible for. But it's just a nice simple API. There's nothing too complicated there. There's no UI to it. We didn't have to worry about automating UI within these integration tests or anything like that. Just hitting API endpoints. But had a low barrier of entry. But also, it was actually a requirement from that partner that we pass 47 test cases that they define in order for them to give us access to their production systems. So it was business value. We needed to do this anyway in order for them to actually allow us on their production systems. Okay, so next thing about implementation is sharing the knowledge. So it's really important as you're going through this process that there's continual sharing of knowledge between everybody in the team. And there's the three best ways that I've seen to do this is, number one, the best way is just try and spread the word throughout the team as much as possible. And then followed by your documentation and demo/knowledge sharing systems. The big one that I've found really, really helps is the first one. The problem that you see all the time is that one person becomes an expert, and that just leads to all sorts of problems. You know, as much as what would normally happen is you have one person who goes in, sets up this technology the first time, and everybody else builds on top of that. And then if you go and move on to another project, or just copy paste your code over to the new project, build on top of that. The team never actually sits down with the code not working for hours, trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. And as painful as it is, you learn so much about the technology by going through that process, sitting there for hours, figuring it out. So if you've got people on a team who actually haven't had to go through that, they don't have the level of knowledge needed. Well, sure, everyone can work it out, but to do it efficiently, to work out when things go wrong, is very hard. Next point, the documentation. Yeah, so everyone says do documentation, but I think in terms of when you're putting new technology in, it's quite easy to just, do all the work and then just sit down afterwards on the afternoon, write up a little wiki page about how it all works and how it all nicely fits together. And while that documentation is useful, I think it needs to go a little bit deeper than that. I think you just need a documentation. It doesn't have to be pretty, where the person who ends up sitting down doing the vast majority of the work, actually every decision or every challenge that they face, they document it in this file and leave links out to wherever documentation or any external stuff they come across while going through it, just so that someone can come along afterwards, read through this document and just go, okay, so they tried to do this, that didn't work, why didn't it? You've got a Stack Overflow link there. You can sort of backtrace their steps then, and for you as well, personally, if you did the work, you can sort of go, I can't remember why I did it like that, why have I done it this shit way? So just go back through the documentation, you can see it. Third thing that I've seen work really well are demos, but not the type of demo where you have the one expert sat there and just talking to everybody else. I mean, so we have done a couple of demo sessions where it was anyone in the room just give a demo on this technology. You just go around the room and just say, okay, so what have you learned over the last couple of weeks? What have you done the last couple of weeks? This sort of gives everyone the chance to go, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I'll have a look at that later. And it just helps discussion around the best way of doing things and just general knowledge sharing around the topic. So, the main reason why this is important is obviously the buzz factor. So I'm going to go back to the Kubernetes example again. So when we talk about the buzz factor, it doesn't actually have to be even just in the project that we're talking about. But you have to worry about somebody going off. But it can happen months later, especially with what happened with us with Kubernetes. So we got to quite a good place. So we thought with Kubernetes, we'd actually had quite a few apps running on them for quite a while. We actually had quite a nice setup. Like other team members, other than me, were able to set up their own apps without any problem. But then things started to go wrong on a day where I was off. We did the initial setup. The problem itself was really simple. We were adding more and more applications. The Kubernetes cluster ran out of resources. It couldn't spin up any more apps, and cron jobs were starting to fail because it didn't have any space to run them. The team were eventually able to figure it out. I think it took all of them on a call for quite a lot of the day trying to work it out. But that problem, I think anyone who's actually sat there trying to set up Kubernetes for the first time, and you get the knowledge of how to go into the command line and really dig deep into it, would have been able to find that in a few minutes, figure out what was going wrong with that. And I think that also leads me quite nicely onto my final point, keep it simple. Again, with this Kubernetes problem, I spent a lot of time up front trying to make it as simple as possible for everyone else coming after me. I set up a nice little template that could be reused, and it was generic enough to the point where you just have to copy a couple of files into a project, change a couple of variables. The build pipeline would just pick it up and deploy it. I didn't have to think about it all. It came from good intentions. I was just trying to I'm trying to make it nice and easy for the team to pick up this technology and get up and running with it really, really fast. But the problem is they weren't actually using the technology. They were just copying what I've written and getting it out there. And other people from outside the team looking at it going like, oh, they've learned this quick, it's going really well. Then it all goes to everything goes wrong, but nobody's actually. Right. So that leads me to, okay, so kind of a rule, but more of a guideline. I think the very first time you're implementing something, if you find yourself using something that isn't in the getting started guide, just stop and think, do you really need it for a first pass? Just imagine how easy it would be if you, someone's just got to read the getting started and they're up to speed with where you're currently at. Just don't go too complicated. Obviously, it's not a hard and fast rule, but sometimes, yes, you do need it. It's more of a guideline. Just stop and think, do you really need stuff? And thanks for listening.
So, first of all, thank you very much, Adrian. Really appreciate that, and very insightful talk. Obviously, we are on the hybrid model. That tiny little camera there is streaming to quite a lot of people at the moment. The way we're going to alternate this, I'm going to take a question from the room, then Heather's going to take a question from the chat, and then that way everyone's fair and gets to ask questions and goes from there. So, if anyone's got a question, just raise your hand and we'll take it from there. Toby?
So, after the first part's done, you've introduced the technology. How would you handle if you got a lot of pushback? Say half the team wants it, half the team doesn't.
No, it's a good question. We have to come across that before. The way we've dealt with it is so with Kubernetes, we did actually have a fallback plan. It's not something I worked into this, but we had our own. We did already have a way that we deployed stuff before. It's not the first time we've ever deployed something. We just made sure that if we didn't like it, we had a fallback for it, and we do generally try to have a fallback. If you didn't have a fallback, I think if you've got half a team who like it and half a team that don't, and it really is 50-50, I think you just got to go with the side that don't like it and just go back to the way you used to do it, because it obviously worked before, unless there was a really big problem with it. But, yeah.
No worries. Anything from the chat as of yet?
Oh, the slides come through.
First question.
How do you deal with people who just don't want a new thing and won't budge? And that's from Ollie Nugent.
Good question. I don't know how you deal with these people. Get a new job, move far away from it. Yeah.
I mean,
lots of help with that.
Andy, you've worked in recruitment for what, 15 years. I'm sure the skills are transferable. You got any suggestions on how you deal with someone who doesn't want to budge on the way they've always done things?
I wish it was more than 15 years, but I'm a bit older than that. In my experience, the best books to introduce anything from a coding perspective, introducing new ideas and different system tools. I think it's to introduce a challenge rather than what the solution is, and then it will more likely seem like it's their idea because they will naturally come with responses to it rather than providing a solution to begin with. I think the way that we've tried to do it is to try to get that buy-in from the start, so then they're on the process before you've chosen what the solution is yet.
You know what, considering I put you on the spot, out of nowhere, that's a very great answer.
Do you want to come up here?
Yeah, have we got any more questions from the room before we go? Yep, Mike.
So when you're what's like the best payoff
Oh, sorry, I'm just going to repeat that for the mic. I've just been told that you can't hear it on there. So for those on the stream, what's the best payoff that you've come across with the trade-off for the initial investment versus the reward?
That's a good question. Just going back through everything now. Let me have a think. I'll have to swing back to you on that one. Brain's gone blank.
Anything else from the chat there, Heather?
think we've got anything else.
Nothing
No.
else about anything else from the room whilst we're at it? Kenny?
Documentation side of it.
Yes.
How do you stop somebody from just going head first and not seeing the documentation? So if somebody goes and gets a load of it, and then somebody else comes along, starts the task, and then completely misses that there's documentation. How have you found best to manage that and provide that visibility?
So just for the sake of the mic, so everyone here on the stream, so if someone comes along, there's documentation there, but they just jump in headlong and completely miss the documentation, what's the best way to deal with that? Sorry, Adrian.
What I've found is that these people normally come and ask for help anyway. With you as the first one who's done it, and you just point them to the documentation until they learn. Yeah,
No
people
worries.
will learn it.
Anything else while we're here?
No questions.
No questions?
Igor wanted to say that was a really great talk.
That's you, mate.
Don't worry, I'll send him all his compliments later. I don't want to inflate his ego too much on the stage. Anything else from the room while we've got it, just before we move on to the next talk, or any questions or anything? No, brilliant. So just we're going to take, for the benefit of the stream as well, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break now, so everyone can go to loo, get a drink, everything along those lines. Before we go, I've got 2 quick things I want to say. First of all, I just want to say thanks to Andy, because he's paid for all the t-shirts, all the alcohol. I forgot to mention we're going to society afterwards. He's paid for that as well. So really do we've also got a Raspberry Pi to give away after this. If you're on the stream, it's going to be a 50-50 chance between the room and the stream, so you're not any worse off for being on the stream. And we do have one quick announcement that I do need to make. Amy, if you want to hop up quickly. This one is something that we've been preparing for a little bit, but I'll leave it to Amy to govern it. If you want to step behind the line, Amy, so the mic to pick you up.
Like a train station, this. Right, I'll be quick because I know you all want a drink and a wing. So this is the first tech community event that this has been announced at. It's literally hot off the press. It's not been announced to the press yet, but Manchester is finally getting its own tech week. So for those of you that know, London has had a tech week for quite a few years. Leeds has got Digital City Festival. We've not had anything since Business Rocks. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember Business Rocks with Steve Wozniak and that mess. So we're going to do a little bit better than that. The reason we're announcing it tonight is because when we wanted the funding for Manchester Tech Week from Informa Tech, which is funded by DCMS, we had to prove there was an appetite in Manchester and that there were tech companies who were prepared to also put some of the corporate sponsorship. And Oscar and Andy were the first company to say, yeah, we will pledge towards Manchester Tech Week. So for that reason, we've got funding. And as of next year, it's going to be in September. It's Monday to Saturday. It's a full tech festival. It's going to be for the people, by the people. So it's going to be, if you've never done a talk at an event before, but you want to be a keynote speaker at Manchester Tech Week, please reach out to us. There's going to be lots of different competitions. We're not doing award culture because we think it's bollocks. So there's, well, it just is, you sponsor, you get an award. Oh, how did that happen? But there will be real community awards for, you know, best AI, etc., etc. But no money is swapping hands, no transactional, nothing like that. So I could waffle on for a while, but in short, Manchester Tech Week, you heard it here first. If anybody wants to get involved, please grab me or Sean. I would say the guy with the beard, but or Ross or Andy or any of the Oscar team, because Oscar are being heavily involved in this. So thank you, Oscar.
Just quickly for everyone's benefit, I haven't got a watch on, which is really helpful for something like this. Yeah, so it's 1:45 right now. We'll come back at 10:02 if everyone wants to get out, get some fresh air, grab a drink, everything. We'll have the next speaker straight on at 10:02. The stream will be back then. Cheers.
Good stuff. Was it? Thank you.
Hi everyone, we'll just give you a chance to all get sat back down and everything before we start.
Shuffle along the bus.
Adrian, from Newcastle. Lucas, yeah. You here from Germany.
Recycling route. Efficiency.
Everyone, if we just get back to our seats and everything now, we'll go crack on with the next talk. I don't want to leave Stephen for too long, knowing what's coming. Could someone just do a quick whip round on the terrace, make sure there's no one out there? Andy, is there anyone else left out there? Anyone else left out on the terrace?
Amy's obviously outside.
Yeah, sorry, we've got a couple of spare seats, 2 here and 1 here that's spare. Sorry, it was just we will sort of crack on with our next talk for the evening now. For those of you who don't know Stephen Atkinson, you probably haven't been to a meetup for the last 3 years because he's been at every single one of them possible. I'm convinced that he just lives at them, if I'm being totally honest. The last time Stephen did a talk for me at a meetup, we had 131 slides in 10 minutes. So expect 1,000,001 slides, 1,000,001 GIFs. It might be funny, I'm not sure what sort of mood he's in tonight. But Stephen's a software developer at Dootrix. I've been running meetups for about 3.5 years now, and Stephen's missed maybe 2. So I can't thank him enough again for coming down. He's a great member of the community, so I'll hand over to Stephen now, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Stephen Atkinson, like Ross said, software developer at Dootrix, and today we were talking about event sourcing. So yeah, that's just what I just said. So hello. This is one of many, okay? So let's get started. So in order to demonstrate event sourcing, it's probably best to use an example. So at the start, we're going to be making just a simple web app. So we've got a list of requirements. So we have to create customers, we need to create accounts for those customers. Then we've got to deposit and withdraw money, move money between accounts, delete, standard CRUD stuff. And then we've also got some requirements like saying you can't withdraw more money than you've already got. We're not doing credit limits, for instance. You're not allowed to move more money than is available to another account. So we're going to make a traditional, do the traditional approach. So we have a web app, a database, and they just kind of talk to each other. So we have our customers, or we're calling them owners in this application because accounts have an owner of an account. So we'll build an owner service, which will then talk to the database. We'll have accounts. Again, account service, talk to the database. And we can use web app, or we could use our console app. The same approach pretty much applies to everything. So let's go through the requirements, and you're going to see some code. Just demonstrate the code. So here, I changed my mind and decided not a web app, we're going to use a console app. So we're reading the lines from the console and just creating a owner. And returning the ID, an account, owner ID, reading that from the console, creating it. All good, that's sending stuff to the database. Got deposit money, no validation on there, so yeah, don't do it. We're taking money away when we're withdrawing it, and we're moving money between accounts. We've got two update calls, which will update each record. And we've got simple delete methods as well. So we've ticked off all those boxes. We've still got these 2 to do. So we just slap that bit in there. So we've not got the funds if the new balance goes to 0. And again, moving money, if the balance is less than 0, we know that amount of money. So that's all good. Pretty easy, pretty easy. And we're doing this traditional approach, just into the database. So each time we're doing it, we're mutating a row. And when you're building a new app, that's generally the approach you go for because it's very, very simple. So your PM comes around, he's got a new idea, new requirements have come up, and you get your inner sirens play off. I've just built a perfect app now. It works. It's amazing. So they just said, oh, we need to build a track when the money was deposited and withdrawn and moved, just like in a bank statement you've got to see when you've moved money between accounts and paid people. So you're going to be breaking your pride and joy. You're screaming, like, oh, why? It worked. Why do you want to change it now? And after you've calmed down a bit, you're screwing the baby dear, you're all calm. You think, it's easy. Create another service, can't we? So every time we do something, we just call our service and say what we've done. Pretty easy. So we've added this bit of code here. Say, okay, we've deposited money. We'll just say, oh, we deposited money. This is some information that we want to store about that. And again, when we're withdrawing, same kind of deal. And you've done that. That was pretty simple. Okay, no more. But then he comes over. You know the deal. So like I said before, we've got all these services. They're talking direct to the database, mutating rows, which fine. Now the audit service does make you have an idea, because every time you do something, you're logging what happened. So this is the journey into event sourcing, because the audit is a pattern which event sourcing is pretty much performing. So let's start with event sourcing fundamentals. And hopefully these GIFs are not going to make you fall asleep. So let's carry on. So event sourcing, as you expect, the main building block is events. Not parties, not wizard graduations, not your special day. So using the example before, we've got some money, we've got Happy Joe over there with his money, sticks it in the bank, and we have that money deposit event, pretty much what we saw in the audit service. So in code, that look like a very simple C# class, just says the money was deposited and the amount withdrawn, the amount, very simple. You can make events carry more data if you want to. This is a very simple example. It's very simple. So you've got all these events. Where do they go? They go to the event store, and that is where you're storing all your events. So it's a pretty apt name. So the event store rolls out the red carpet, and the events just hop on inside. So if you've got a big system, there's just a load of events going in. This is just a more professional example rather than a GIF. And it's just that simple. And when you're storing these events, you know exactly what's going on in your system, so you can leverage that. So you've got all these events in your system. That's great. Not really, but she's just sitting there, isn't it? So here come the next building blocks. We've got aggregates, we've got projections, and reactors. So aggregates are what we use to determine if a command should be executed. So here we've got a simple account aggregate where we've got our owner ID and the balance. So this has got a bunch of methods in there which we'd call from a service or something, which will then create a new event. And then when that event happens, it will be applied to that same aggregate. So when you're doing the account created, you're setting the balance to 0 and setting the owner ID. If you see a money deposit event, you're adding money to your balance, withdrawn, taking it away. Pretty simple stuff. So the aggregate on its own, that's a sim class, so it needs to swap the event store. On the event store's going, I'll work with events. Come get them. The aggregate goes, all right, well, I'll take your events. So the event store gives the aggregate all the events, so then it can populate all those properties. So your event store might have a load of different events, and the aggregate is only concerned with a select few of them. So if there's an event it doesn't need to know about, it just won't process that. So, like I said, the start aggregates used to mean if the command should be processed. In that previous example, it just said, well, you call this event, you call this method, I'm gonna raise this event without worrying about what's going on. So, we missed the requirement of if you haven't got enough money deposited in your account, then you can't actually withdraw some money if you're withdrawing more than you've got. So we can check the balance. So when we've processed events into the aggregate from the event store, it's changing that balance. So then when we call that withdraw money method, the balance is set to a value. And then if we try and withdraw more than that, we can instead trigger another event instead of doing the money withdrawal event. And then we can use that event to trigger something else. Like an example I've seen, if you've got that happening too many times in a banking application, you might send out an email saying, oh, you want a loan or something. An aggregate's stored in memory, which is fine. But sometimes you want to do some more elaborate things with these events. And this is where you use projections. And projections is where you take an event and you could use that event to populate a row in the database. Because then once it's in the database, then you can do fancy queries or whatever you want. So again, frequency events, they come onto the projection. And in this example, I've just got a dictionary, whereas you could use entity framework or whatever ORM you want to use to put data into the database. And again, with the account, same deal. Receive event, gets the event, runs the apply method, and updates our dictionary. Now, reactors are like one-hit events. So when you emit an event, you can react to that. Hence reactors. So like a very, very simple example. We've got a button and a hand. The hand disappears, we've pressed the button, my alarm's gone. A hand's there again. And we've got a button clicked event. Now we've got something listening to that, a hand, and the rocket goes up into space. And the important thing to know about reactors is that if you try and do it again, when you're replaying events, it won't do it again. Which is good because if you've got events that are transferring money between accounts, you don't want to run those events when you're not at the state you expect. Otherwise, you'd be moving money that you don't have in it. That's how we go. So, how can we leverage all of these building blocks? So, we have a bunch of different apps. Each app is going to trigger events, sit in the event store, but they're also going to talk to a bus as well. So it'll publish events to the bus, and other apps can subscribe to those. So if you've got the customer app, you want to see how many transactions are being run, you can have an admin app that looks for all the events where you're moving money around, and it can say, oh, well, you've moved money around this many times. And again, you've got a reporting app. If you want to generate PDFs or whatever, you can listen for events and store data in there as well. And if you just want to have a place to store all the events, you can just have an app which captures all those. I've been using this package called Laravel Event Sourcing, where I built an app. I was using all this event sourcing stuff, and I decided, okay, it's pretty cool. Tracking all these events. So I deleted all the data out of my database, apart from the events, replayed the events, and then the database was back to normal, like I'd never even deleted anything, which is pretty cool. And that's a good strategy if you're doing like deployments where you have an environment, you spin up another one with a new database, you can replay the events onto this new database, and it's pretty much like for like. And it's a good way of breaking free from the monolith as well. If you've developed your application in a way where, even though you're emitting events and you're handling in the same application, you can eventually split that into microservices because you're generally just listening for events. So, what do I have today? Building apps by updating rows in databases is a good way to not lose data because you're mutating the rows and you don't know how it got to that particular state. Management stakeholders come up with the best ideas after you've built the bloody thing. Storing events is a good way of working out what's happened in your system. You can use aggregates to decide whether you're going to trigger an event or something else. You can use projections to persist the data, and you can use reactors for those one-hit wonders. So, how can you carry on learning about this? So, event sourcing is often used with the CQRS pattern, where you can trigger a command, which then an event will listen to, which would then put something in a read model, and then the queue in CQRS is query. You can query that back out. Sagas, which is subscribing to events. Idempotency, where it's all about making sure you don't handle the same event twice. So versioning your events. Checkpoints and snapshots, so you don't have to replay every single event when you're processing your aggregates. Event store and service are just some interesting patches to use if you're wanting to do event sourcing yourself. And that is the end.
So, same as last time, I will take questions from the room. Heather can take some questions from the chat, because I know we've still got quite a lot of people in there. If you have got any questions, just raise your hand and we will get to you. We'll start with the room. Anyone got any questions? Yeah, sorry.
Sure.
Sure.
So is there ever a bad time in terms of actually use the data, or is there a particular one to use?
So, just for the sake of the chat, is there ever a bad time to use event sourcing, and can it be used with any database technology?
It probably goes along the lines of what last talk was about, where you're just trying to keep things simple. So if you're trying to demo something, you don't want to go straight into event sourcing. It's nice if you can, but it's mainly if you're migrating to something where you want to split out into a distributed system. And then you want to be able to track events and know exactly what's going on, because that's good for metrics as well. Whereas if you're a startup and you've not really got that much traction yet, you don't really need that data yet. And you could use something like Google Analytics for simple tracking.
Brilliant, thank you. Heather, anything in the chat?
Yeah, we've got a question from Val. Can you create chronologies, say history of a customer?
Can you create chronologies to say the history of the customer?
You can, because you can see exactly what the customer is doing. You can see if they're moving money around. You can see if they've tried to withdraw money too many times. Like, oh, something's not quite right. Maybe they need to help.
Anyone else in the room? Mike?
How scalable is this?
How scalable is this? Sorry, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, could you just repeat that, Mike? I feel like I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, yeah, how scalable is it? Because when you said that if you delete all your data and then you can rebuild it, it sounds like you're duplicating every bit of data that you're storing.
So for the sake of for the sake of the chat, how scalable is it? Because when you say you delete everything, it feels like you duplicate your data when you're rebuilding it.
It's supposed to be very scalable, because when you're doing event sourcing, you get into a state of eventual consistency. But duplicating data, each each application that you run could have their own event store. So yeah, maybe it's duplicating data.
Anything more?
It's only really duplicating the events rather than everything else, because you only need to keep track of the events. You don't need to keep track of all the other database models you're creating.
No, we've got nothing more from the chat, so is there anything from the room here? Any questions? Zach?
So going back to your retracing steps when you're the data, that would be really good for a greenfield project or going from monolith to microservice.
Yeah.
How would you handle it for already being food system or integrating it later down the line?
So how would you handle the integrating of the data later down the line rather than greenfield projects or moving from monolith to microservices?
It's that's pretty tricky. So
Just respond yes.
so if you've already, I'm kind of in the situation at the moment where we've already built an app and we're going to try and put event sourcing in. So the main thing you'd be able to do when you're putting into an existing system is just set the current state, because then you're just adding events onto that state. It's pretty tricky.
Anything else from the room while we're here? No? No worries. We'll take one more 5-minute break before we move to David for our last talk. Adam, please make sure you set the right time for people to come back for this.
I didn't make this slideshow.
Job. No, we'll take one more 5-minute break. Just before we go, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming tonight. I'm aware that most of you are from the Northwest, and we've got people who've attended this event virtually for almost a year now, and it's really appreciated that you come down. I do want to give two special thank yous. Aidan's come all the way down from Newcastle for this. And then, not meaning to steal his thunder completely, but Lucas has flown over from Hanover from this. It's really appreciated. We've really enjoyed having everyone here the last few months. But, you know, what time are we actually on now? That would help if I gave a time. 19:13, 20 past 7, we're back here. And for everyone on the stream's benefit as well, we will be giving away the Raspberry Pi before we start the next talk. Nice one.
Right, the final leg.
Hi everyone, if we just get back to our seats, please.
Okay, get back to it. Right.
The full cycle, you start to get your own.
Something else quick.
Stepping on the one person. Hi everyone, if we can just get back, we're going to start with the giveaway. Will, can I just ask you to quickly grab the Raspberry Pi out of there, please? So, is the stream on mute or not?
No, it's not.
It's not on mute, no worries. So, again, I just want to say a quick thank you to Andy Morell. We've got a Kit Raspberry Pi to give away for the evening. It's not only just a Raspberry Pi, but it comes with the full start kit for everything you would need to start messing around with it and having fun. I did actually ask Andy for a hand with the giveaway here, whilst everyone was away, so he couldn't be biased anyway because he didn't know where anyone was sat. How many people have we got in here at the moment?
We've got 14.
You know what? I'm going to ask one of the speakers. David, we'll pick a number between 1 and 14, please.
Wait a minute, is it under my chair?
Can you just pick a number between 1 and 14?
9.
9. Count down 9 on the participants, please, Heather. And also, whilst I was on break, I asked Andy to just come and pick a random seat. He just came and pointed at a seat and said, "This is the seat that's going to be going up for the Raspberry Pi." Kenny Pope, you're sat in that seat.
You're joking.
Can you come? Can you come to the front, please, mate? Who's number 9? Jack O'Hara. Can you just type in the chat and say you're there, please, mate? I hope you're there, because otherwise this is kind of wasted. Yeah. Oh, Jack's there. I'm going to ask Jack first, so that we know he's not Googling the answer. Jack, I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. Kenny's going to answer after you. I'm going to ask one question. Whoever's closest wins a Raspberry Pi. Kenny wins it, I'll give you it now. Jack, if you win it, I'll post it straight out to your house. Jack, can you just give me an answer? I won't show Kenny because it's on a laptop. How many lines of code do you reckon are in Google? The website Google. See what he comes up with.
That's a bit hard.
It's a guess. Right. Kenny, how many lines of code do you reckon are in Google?
I feel like millions is definitely too low, so I'm going to say like a minimum of a billion.
Right, okay, so Jack said 120,000. Kenny said 1 billion. To give you a bit of context, Windows 10 is 50 million. Google is the largest software project in history. It's 2.5 billion lines of code at the moment. So Kenny, you win a Raspberry Pi. Someone get a photo. It looks like you just started for Oscar. We're gonna. Sorry, Jack. Sorry at this point, mate. We are going to move on to our last speaker of the evening. David Traynor is talking about unifying multi-platforms. He's with Airtime Rewards. He's a long-time friend of Oscar, and we're really excited to have him on. I have promised him that he can go for a pint of Guinness after this, so I better get him on before he runs out of Guinness.
Thank you.
Just on the screen there, David. We'll go from
I
there.
shall try and make sure everyone can see it. Hopefully everyone's been looking forward to this evening. I know I have been. And so, first of all, thank you to Oscars for actually putting it on, bringing us all here, and 2 great speeches that I have to follow. So you might be disappointed.
You mean there's no gifts?
You never know. Just in case anyone did any prep work and Googled David Traynor, just to see who I was before I came, you'd have found a spiritualist medium. That's not the closest I come. The closest I come to that is a double vodka. But apparently, spiritualist circles, it, don't cut it. So anyway, Airtime Rewards, we're based here in the city centre. We've got an office in London, also with a rooftop venue. And I'm going to be talking about Unifying Multiplatform mobile applications. So just a little about the real me, not a spiritualist, but I have been in tech for quite some time. I've built global dev teams and ops teams all around the world. Built enterprise high volume transaction systems running billions of processing transactions per month. Built mobile web solutions when that was a big thing before responsive websites came along, and built mobile applications till they were coming out of our ears. So just a few of them: Australian Stock Exchange, Fox News, The Guardian, AT&T, India Today. That's what I've done, but that's not what I'm going to talk about tonight. So, first of all, let me just put a bit of context about Airtime Rewards, who we are and what we do. Our founder's gone now, so I've got this little elevator pitch that I tell people, and if I've got time at the end, I'll tell you what that is. But we are a leading mobile rewards program. We try to stay at the forefront of technology, constantly innovating, trying to keep pace with the market and providing the best-in-class member experience. We don't do customer support, we don't do tech support, we do member experience, because that's the most important thing to us, our members. Just a few facts and figures to position us. Over 35 incentivized transactions per minute. So you just pause for 2 seconds, that's another one. Oh, and there's another one. We actually track over £500 million worth of retail purchases annually. And we have helped our members to reduce their phone bills by £6 million per year. So, and just in the last 18 months, 20 months as it turns out now, it's been a lot of turmoil. Everyone knows about it. Our staff count has actually doubled during that period. We've been taking people on month on month on month. Oscars, particularly, Lauren, and Heather have been helping us to build that team.
Don't inflate their egos too much, David.
Sorry, if people do a good job, I tell them. If they do a bad job, I tell them. Our member base has increased by over 250% during that period. We're almost at 1.6 million members. Hopefully, some of you in the room are already members, but hopefully, at the moment, not all of you. I'll come back to that. It's a very sophisticated system. There's a big platform at the back, high volume transactions, and yet it's a simple proposition, and that's what has helped us sustain where we are. You join the app, download it, you link a credit card. People might worry. We are PCI DSS level 1 compliant. You shop with a card. Like a lot of loyalty programs, you have to get your card out, you've left it at home. None of that with us, you just use your credit card. We'll track it and you can claim your rewards. When we was doing that, setting out on our journey, we wanted to build a high quality responsive mobile app. Resources were at a premium. We were a startup, didn't have money to throw around, and time to market was key for us. So we wanted fast feature implementation, we wanted to hit the market and improve and improve and improve. And we also wanted to target iOS and Android, 99% of the UK market. And one of the key things, I mentioned talking about rewards, we've created this new digital currency. People, just about everyone I'm thinking, I'm hoping in this room has got a mobile phone. Unfortunately, the mobile networks charge you for it. We can help you reduce your bill just by going about doing what you do. A lot of developers in the room. I don't know how many people have worked on mobile apps, but they are different, multiple platforms. State management's an issue, apps being paused, going into the background, coming back, users expecting the state to be maintained. New devices coming out all the time, app versions not being updated. Causes issues with backwards compatibility. You've got a slow release cycle because you've got to get it approved by Apple or Google. Deep links can cause issues again with state, and then there's app crashes, and that can cause you reputational problems. So, bit of a backdrop to mobile apps. We were starting off, we had some choices. We could either go native and write for both platforms, or find a unified solution. Clear choice. Pros and cons with both of them. With native, direct access to the core platform, uses all the native components, new operating system comes out, you're right there with it. But generally what it means is you end up with two teams, two code bases, platform-specific bugs, and specialist knowledge, because you're either going to have a team that's iPhone or Android. Sorry.
I'm waiting for mine as well.
I was hoping no one would have noticed that.
No, sorry, David, don't worry. I'm waiting for mine as well. So, there you go.
The other approach is unified, and just by the very fact that I'm biased on this one, but it is good choice. A lot more green. Green's good, red's bad. One team, common code base, common design and refinement processes. You get a common UI and UX. However, your developers suddenly have to be knowledgeable about those two platforms to understand the differences. The business likes this one. We've only got one team, reduced costs. But we also get reduced bug counts because common code base, if you get something wrong, I keep telling my developers stop writing bugs, but keep doing it. Still uses native components, so you get that user interface familiarity, and you can get a decreased time to release cycles because of the development functions. Bit of a double-edged sword with this last one, third-party libraries. So you use a unified framework, but other people have done some of the core features for you. Great. However, some people have done those features for you, and if they decide to end of life it, deprecate it, then it becomes a problem for you. The other side to that is new operating system comes out, there's a time lag between them that coming out and them updating it and ready for you to launch in your application. So, a lot of alternatives. We chose React Native. There's a few there, Kotlin, Ionic and Flutter, just a few. But we were following in the footsteps of giants, Facebook, Uber Eats, WhatsApp, Skype, yada, 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 there's lots. The build process for React Native actually results in a native app. So it's indistinguishable from an actually native built one. We've got access to a big resource pool and community. It's JavaScript. It's based on React Native, it's based on React. And we found that developers can transition very smoothly from React to React Native. The other thing is that we get a good developer experience through that. They enjoy it. I've mentioned this last time, large repository of stable and supported packages. What it means is we can concentrate on the business logic and the functionality and the new features that make the member experience, if you remember from that first slide, one of the key elements that we're trying to chase down. After following these guys, I thought I'd better put something that looks technical in there. If anyone's looked at the React model, you've got the native components, but there's a bridge with the JavaScript on top. What it means is, if you change something in your business logic and you compile in this up, you can very quickly change some of that JavaScript without having to recompile everything. And that's part of that cycle time. And what we got as a result of that, we became more effective, more productive. We've got an app. I got told off for this because I put 3 nines on it. It's more than that, but I thought you'd think I was being pedantic. You get a consistent look and feel across the devices, concentrate on releasing new features. And as a consequence of all that, Our app ratings are very high. 4.7 iOS, 4.5 on Android, and a net promoter score of 80. These key metrics are what drive what we do, because it's about the members. Oh! Audience participation time. Can everyone just put their hand up, please? Put your hand down if you've not got a smartphone, iOS or Android. Put your hand down if you're already an Airtime Rewards member. This one's not for you. However, if you still got your hand up, and you can put them down now. Free money. Anyone who doesn't like free money, free to leave now. You can start your journey to happiness now. If you download the app, register, and when you register, use the promo code Oscars. The first 50 people to sign up and register a card get £5. That's it, in your wallet. You're all starting on your journey. Every time you shop at places like Boots, Argos, Alfords, and I'm going to stop there because I can't remember. There's about 200 of them. You can build up that, and you can push a button and reduce your mobile bill. Put your hand in there unless you want to ask a question.
No, I've got a question. I was brought
Not
up.
about that time yet. He's going to shout out questions.
I have a question about this one.
Let me read this last bit. Expires tomorrow.
Right.
Feel free.
You said earlier that you register a credit card, so I might be being a bit dense, but is it literally, it's got to be a credit card? Or
Credit or debit.
All right, okay.
Sorry, I was just being
Still free
loose.
money, don't
£5, still £5. Plus 50. Just to get you started on the journey, we've got 1.6 million members. We're chasing down 2 million. Be part of it. Once you've got it, if you get someone else on board, you can get an extra 50p for everyone who joins up. Free money. So, thank you.
So, first of all, I just want to say thank you to David, because free fiver, that's a pint over the road for anyone who's still joining us. But no, thank you very much for coming. Obviously, we'll go to the room and then the chat again. We'll keep alternating. Has anyone got any questions from the room whilst we're at it? Amy?
Here's a different question, sorry.
It's okay.
So I've got to ask you, so while a lot of companies in Manchester were ship people without paddles during lockdown trying to recruit, how did you manage, what did you do that meant you managed to double your...
Sure.
Sorry, I'm just going for the sake of the
Of
mic.
course.
Just so I can keep it PG for YouTube. So, whilst a lot of companies in Manchester were struggling, how did you manage to double as a business during lockdown?
So here you go. Can everyone remember like March 2020?
Yeah.
Lockdown happened. People were buying toilet rolls and bottles of water in abundance. There was a shortage. People went home into lockdown, didn't get out of the house. High street shopping just fell off the planet. However, they started buying online. So there was an hiatus of about 6 weeks or so where people just went, I don't even know if we're going to survive, so I'm just not spending anything and saving the money. And then they started opening up. Our model, as you'll see, if you download the app and get your free £5, you will see that there are online offers and in-store offers. Sometimes the rates are different between them, sometimes they're the same. As people went, bricks and mortar businesses started doing takeaways, started doing online business. Our model supports both, so we were resilient. And because we were resilient, our business was stable, but we are a growing business. We've got lots to do. We've still got some positions open, but
I'm going to get in so much trouble for advertising. This is not recruitment based.
Sorry, that was my fault.
I'm just going to say, Amy, blame this on her for anyone still on the stream, you know. Heather, anyone from the chat?
We actually don't have any questions just yet.
Nothing from the chat. Anyone else who's in here? Beside me, yeah.
The great outcomes. After you've made the transition, how long did it take you to be confident in the outcomes? Better cycle times, things like that?
Sorry, again, just how long did it take after you transitioned to be confident you delivered the better cycle time go forward?
So, one of our mantras is continuous improvement. Guys are fed up of me saying it because that's what we're all about. So, we never stop. In terms of delivery, we have got release cycles of 2 to 4 weeks. We are releasing new features and improvements all the time. We're innovating. We talked about credit card and debit card, but we're also opening up to open banking. So we're adding to the portfolio. In terms of the app, it's a continuous process. You know, we're quite well structured in terms of agile approach to development. We're quite structured in terms of our ceremonies, and one of the big things that we make part of our day-to-day life is collaboration. Everyone in the business has a voice. No matter where you sit, you're part and parcel of helping us to achieve that next level. And so, I don't know if that answers your question directly, but it's an ongoing process.
Anyone else in the room while we've got it? Just checking, we've got nothing from the chat so far. Kenny?
How do you make the process easier for React developers transitioning to React Native? So like, what's that onboarding journey? Because that's part of the allure, isn't it? That you get them React devs who don't know any sort of native development and sort of say, hey, you know, you can come along and let React Native dev quick. How do you sort of streamline that?
So, in short, how we made it. I promise for next month we will get a microphone that we're just going to hand around people. Will, that's your job. Yeah, so how have you made the transition from React to React Native easier for developers?
So we've got quite a good onboarding process. We are very collaborative. We have Al is our team lead and is very adept at teaching, programming, making sure people have got good access to resources, watching good practices, coding standards are high on our priority. We make sure that people are involved in the project and they're learning all the time.
Brilliant. Anyone else in the room while we're here? It seems the chat just is quite happy with everything that David said. So, anyone else while we're here, or we go thanks? Okay, thank you very much, David.
Thank
really
you.
So just before we finish tonight, I've already given out the prizes, so I'm not entirely sure why it's gone now. But just wanted to say a couple of quick thank yous. First of all, this is the first in-person meetup we've had since pre-pandemic. I'm aware that it's not ideal for everyone to come out. Not everyone's a fan of it. But to have so many of you here and so many of you on the stream is such a fantastic experience. Anyone who knows me beforehand, I was running meetups for 2-3 years before this. It's been fantastic having this back. This is the most normal I've felt in the past couple of years, genuinely. Another thing, thank you very much to Andy and everyone at Oscar for hosting us and for paying for tonight. I know it's not the cheapest thing to do. We are still going to the pub if anyone would like to join us. But in general, no, thank you to everyone for coming. I have had a browse on Meetup, and I've had a browse of a few meetups that I've attended online, in person, everything like that. As far as I can tell, don't quote me on this because it might not be true. Someone could prove me wrong. As far as I'm aware, as far as meetup groups go, I'm fairly sure this is the biggest tech one in the UK to have opened post-pandemic. So this might be, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
You definitely are in the north.
Definitely am in the north, that'll do me. Biggest meetup group in the north since post-pandemic. So thank you so much to everyone for coming. We're just going to wrap up quickly now. Andy's got a quick something to say, but after that, society over the road for anyone who loses us. And Andy's very kind of careful about that. Andy, do you want to just quickly say your piece? Thank you. You don't need it, you've got the slide. Anyway, be able to take.
Okay. I haven't really got anything to say. Ross just asked me to come and say thank you to everybody. I've actually just got a couple of observations. Amy, we don't like awards culture. Right now in London, we're up for best recruitment in the UK. So if we don't win, you're right. Also, David, a couldn't help but notice you built teams at The Guardian and Fox News.
I delivered mobile applications.
Oh,
to
right,
both
okay,
clients.
okay. Anyway, and I've got an apology for you, Stephen, because I'm one of those horrible stakeholder managers that comes up with good ideas after you've built the bloody thing. So, sorry, I'm one of those. But no, to be honest with you, all I wanted to do was echo what Ross has said. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I know, obviously, it's been difficult times, and you've entrusted us in looking after you tonight, which is a big thing, and that trust goes a long way, so we really appreciate it. And supporting the social code that this guy and our back office team work incredibly hard on. So please go and have loads of fun. I've got to scurry off because I'm drinking water and eating powder at the moment to lose some of this. But my plastic will be with the guys, so beers will be on me if you want to go over to the pub. But just thanks for coming. Cheers.
Thank you.
So just for clarity's sake, everyone has got time to finish up the drinks here, you know, got the loo, whatever. But gradually there'll be someone still at the lift and someone from our school will be heading over to society in the next few minutes. Who's got the card? Will's got the card. Will, if you want to head over first. Basically, when you get to society, it's literally that way, about 100 yards that way. When you get that way, bother Will, he's got the card, your drinks or whatever are on us. But thank you so much to everyone for coming. Really appreciate it. It's been a fantastic night. It's been great to meet some of you finally, meet some of you for the first time, and just to have everyone here.
Oh, thanks, John.
You don't have to sit motionless anymore, I promise.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not really, take a seat. You deserve it. Thanks for long enough to put out.
Well done, sir, again. Fantastic. I can treat you halfway.